My bad. I'm not asking nobody to co-host shit. My bad, y'all. But see, the thing about it is, shit is, oh man, they want to highlight it. That's crazy. Trying to eat my fruit. Now I was sitting there before my lag got cut off. They were talking about Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty. It ain't that I support anything that a motherfucker do, but when you sit down and you listen to that Pooh Shiesty, the whole album, minus the little three little motherfucking futures of Bullshit with Sexy Red and Gorilla and shit like that. But when you listen to that album, man, that young motherfucker that'll tell you that he really about that life, man. That motherfucker glowed about being in the penitentiary and commissary and then, folks out loud, well, Gucci Mane got kids and got a family, man. Everybody got kids and got family. But when you playing them games in them streets, man, don't no motherfucker care about you got no kids, no family, man. And like I said, man, Pooh Shiesty had time to sit back in the penitentiary and write them rhymes, but he also had time to sit back and plot and plan on what he was going to do to Gucci Mane, man. He didn't sit back and think that, man, I can go out there and manipulate this individual and get some bread and get out this contract. Or, it'd be the stupidest thing that these rappers, these so-called people that, they got the talent and then somebody get them $1 million and then they sign their name to these 360 deals and then they become somebody and then they get stuck in these deals where somebody get money for nothing. That's what Pooh Shiesty felt like the Gucci Mane was doing. He felt like Gucci Mane was getting money for nothing. Good morning, Miss Cincinnati. Pooh Shiesty felt like the Gucci Mane shouldn't get another dime off of him. But at the end of the day, Gucci Mane gonna constantly get rich off Pooh Shiesty no matter what. Just like the reason he dropped that album of why Pooh Shiesty album got dropped by the label is because that motherfucker money maker, man. You got a motherfucker that's on a motherfucking man, dude. Pooh Shiesty snapped on that motherfucker, man. He snapped. And if you a hood motherfucker, if you growing up in the streets, you can relate to everything he was saying. Besides want to stay in the penitentiary for the rest of your life, because that's what he was saying, man. Pooh Shiesty was saying that he ain't fucked up with dying in the penitentiary. That motherfucker already said he waiting to get there so he can get his old knife back. It just show you that, some people don't care about their freedom and rather be glorified by the streets than, glorified by money, man. I'd rather have all the money in the world and not have one friend. You know, some people don't never ever grow out of that, and some people never have a chance. Pooh Shiesty young, man. Dude, young as fuck, man. You know, and them folk gonna take that same record, that same 16 songs, and they gonna play that motherfucker in the courtroom as a motherfucking roadmap of what he was gonna do to Gucci Mane, and he did it, man. You know, you gotta think like, what the fuck was he thinking when he had Big 30 record the motherfucker of what they were doing? The number one rule is you don't never record a crime that you commit, man. And nowadays, if you record a crime with a phone, you ain't just keeping that data and that video just in your phone. That motherfucker going up in the cloud, man. You know, folk was so excited when them folk came out with smartphones. Smartphones is the next technology. Smartphones is the most easiest way for a motherfucker to get DDT by the police, man. Easy. You know, people don't understand when you got a smartphone, you give up so many of your rights just by clicking on giving folks access to cookies and shit. They ain't talking about real chocolate chip cookies. They talking about cookies in your phone, man. You know, you have a lot of people around the whole United States, different countries, different counties and different cities that's uprising about the flock situation, and they tying them cameras down. The police forces tying them down. The government forces tying them down because they have figured out that is the biggest security breach that the United States has ever let into the world, man. You never have a private owned company that has access to millions and millions and millions of American citizens' data and whereabouts all day long. That's not legal, man. We live in a country, United States, where we have rights, man. Privacy rights. We had a constitution that was wrote years and years and years ago that was trying to prevent men from ever becoming kings and men from ever having more power than another one man should have, man. You know, because people don't understand when you give a person a tool to surveillance one person, you actually gave another person a tool to surveillance another person, man. You know, and people sit back and you got some of these police forces talking about it ain't been there one of my officers that don't misuse flock. Okay, well go down there and do an audit in that police force, and I guarantee you, there's been plenty of searches done that shouldn't have been done, man. There's been plenty of people license plate, a name been put into a database, and somebody stalked them just because they wanted to, and it wasn't no criminal activity, man. You know, that's what people don't understand, man. You cannot stop the way that the technology is ramping up because these folks building data centers and everybody wanted AI and everybody wanted the hottest technology, not knowing that the most hottest technology is the easiest way to surveillance you, man. Smart watches, cell phones, tablets. Man, you can't get away, man. Them folks listen to every conversation you have just by your technology. I used to think when I seen some people, they call them conspiracy nuts. I used to think that them folks was just really crazy, but when you start thinking about the way that the world is moving and the things that people do to other people and the things that they can alter videos and make a video of you looking like it's doing something to someone that you're not doing it to, then you know the world is a scary motherfucking place, man. You know it's scary. You know, and I watch so many people in this world because I do crime stories every day. I watch people every day think that they getting away with crimes when they ain't getting away with a motherfucking thing because it's a camera pointed at everybody every single motherfucking day of the United States, man. Every day. It ain't now motherfucking crime that a motherfucker gonna get away with, man. These folks got the technology where they tracking people, man. Tracking. Man, them folk got facial recognition on cameras setting on poles in your neighborhoods and in your apartment complexes. And people ride past them motherfuckers every day and don't give consent for them folks to videotape them folks. Cause you have to give consent, man. You have to get consent. But see what them folks in these apartment complexes don't got smart. They make them people sign their lease, and then they lease that motherfucker say that you will be recorded in all activity on this private property is the ownership of this private property. And can be used in any kind of way. That's what the police and flight camera came up with. They came up with a slick way to violate the Fourth Amendment and do an illegal search and siege and literally follow you because the police say, well, we're not the one that's following you. It's flock cam system. It's not us. But the police have to put the data in the computer system for it to know who they want them to follow, man. This motherfucker it was a man in Michigan that drove from the weed distributor that's legal from Michigan to Indiana, and the police followed him, tracked him without getting in a car behind him, tracked him all the way to Indiana, and pulled that man over buying a sack of weed in another state. You tell me them folks ain't sharing data with other states, man. Get the fuck out of here. You got these police departments talking about we don't share data with other law enforcement officers in other cities. We only do it for our city, and then the next city got to do it for their city. So how was y'all able to track a motherfucker from one state to another state to another state to their home state? Unless you was corroborating with other law enforcement, and y'all say y'all don't share data with other law enforcement. That's what them motherfuckers say. Them motherfuckers say they don't share data with other law enforcement officers. Only the ones that got access to their flight cam system is the ones that's in their department. That's a lie, man. It's a lie. People don't understand that police officers been trying to figure out ways for decades to figure out a way to get around illegal search and seizures and, with surveilling people without having a warrant. Them folks came up with so many different ways of using drones, and people don't understand in the state of Tennessee, it's illegal. It's illegal for a police officer to use a drone on surveillance of any individual without a warrant from a judge, man. But they do it every day. Man, them folks came up with drone police officers that don't do nothing but control drones all day that fly over the whole fucking city of Nashville and every other state. You got them folks that literally do what they say they not able to do, and that's called surveillance. They trying to survey the citizens of America. It's against the law for them folks to surveillance you, man. They call it police, and that ain't police. That's surveillance in me, man. Oh, well, we just watching over the city, and we just flying the drone over this and just watching it. No, motherfucker, you flying it over what you feel like that you want to fly over. And you spying on people. And when you see a crime hack or something that you feel like there's a crime, then you send in the local little boys on the ground to go out there and take a motherfucker into custody. And then you say, well, the officer observed such and such making hand-to-hand transaction, when in actuality, yeah, the officer did observe, but the officer observed using a legal activity by using a drone to surveillance a neighborhood or individual without a warrant from a judge. It don't take for a person to have a law degree for you to be able to read the Constitution and read laws in different states to understand what them laws really mean. A lot of people give up their Fourth Amendment rights every day and don't even know they're giving it up when they driving past flock cam systems, and when the police pull you over for tinted windows knowing that they can see you, and then they use excuses like they're falling too close, but then they say, well, law enforcement can drive close to your vehicle because they trying to observe you swerving or doing something illegal. But when they doing something illegal, it should never be double standards to where the law, what the police can do, but average citizen can't do. That's not how the Constitution was wrote. The Constitution was never wrote for anyone to be above anyone, not law enforcement, none of that. That's why they put out rules and laws, because people, without rules and laws, you would have straight chaos, and you would have a lot of people, losing their life, losing their freedom for situations and things that don't happen because there's been people that been flagged by that flock cam system and got pulled over, and their car was put in the database as either stolen, carjacked, or a robbery suspect, and the police pull over a 67-year-old woman and draw down on her and drag out the car. Oh, my bad. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. It was not our fault. It was the system that made the wrong, made the wrong data that made us feel like that you was doing this. Do your job, Mr. Officer. Do your job and quit relying on technology, because technology is always going to be wrong, man. And I keep telling folks, until they take every last one of them LPR radar systems down, the United States going to be in trouble, man. They're going to be in trouble. And I'm just waiting for the time that somebody from another country hack them motherfucking cameras and use that motherfucker to assassinate an American citizen, and they link that shit back to flight cam, and I'm going to say, I told y'all, man. I told y'all. It's so crazy that a lot of technology, like they bought them 4 SUVs in Texas for damn near $4 million, and these SUVs was built by the Israeli government as surveillance vehicles, man. But they got these motherfuckers in America, in Texas, driving around with technology from another country. But the reason that they got this technology is because you have surveillance tools in that vehicle, man. You break that vehicle down, man. Each one of them trucks costs $1 million a piece. If you show me a motherfucking Chevy Tahoe that costs $1 million, I'm gonna tell you that motherfucker got $980 some thousand dollars worth of equipment in that motherfucker to surveillance. That's what that motherfucker is. And they tell you that motherfucking SUV can log on to other people's phone, Bluetooth, listen to their conversations. And I'm thinking to myself, how the fuck did Texas government approve for these folks to buy these motherfucking surveillance trucks to spy on American citizens? How have not the Attorney General for the state of Texas stepped in and said, man, these vehicles are illegal to be operated on the streets of America? Then you have the technology that's built by another country that you can believe that the other country still has access to that motherfucking vehicle, man. I think that sometimes Americans think that they're so smart that they'll fall for what you call a Trojan horse, and that's a gift, man. When that's just like when them folks at other country gave Donald Trump that plane, and Donald Trump took that motherfucker because that motherfucker worth millions, and he talking about, yeah, this plane is better than F1, the F1, and but come to find out, another country built this motherfucker, man. Well, we had the United States go over the plane, and it ain't no secret devices in the plane, and you don't know what's in that plane, man. You got to think about the old story about the Bible when they said when man came in through Trojan horse, them folk didn't even know it. They thought it was a gift at the gate, but it really was a whole bunch of motherfuckers inside of a wooden horse. They couldn't wait for them folks to let them in the gate so they could attack them folks. And nowadays, technology is the way to do that. Technology can bring down the whole economy of a country. Because the United States got so hooked on cryptos and, internet cash and shit like it that they don't forget about the American value has always been the almighty dollar that comes out of a bank. Something that can be 100% secured. But when you're dealing with cryptocurrency and that internet money, if the right hacker hack the right situation, they can cripple a country, man. They can cripple a country. They can turn the billionaires into motherfucking poor people within seconds. Within seconds. They can suck all the money out of an economy and crush that economy. Because that's what these folks out here doing now. These folks out here trying not to tell the world about the evil things that's going on in the world because they don't want you to not come to Nashville and buy these high dollar ass houses they don't build, knowing that there's serial rapists running around out here raping women every second of every day and motherfuckers killing folks, man. Them folk don't want to highlight the truth in these cities that's going on like Memphis because they hoping that one day after the motherfuckers in the streets don't burnt down the city, the rich folk can come back through that motherfucker and build from the ashes and build up and start selling houses that was worth $10,000 for $500,000 like they did in Nashville, man. But all this shit got to come to a bust, man. You know, the rich don't get richer for too long, and now the rich is getting poor because everybody climbing over each other to try to become the next rich person. You know, it ain't enough money, currency to cover all the money that's running around in this United States, man. It ain't. It ain't enough gold. It ain't enough silver. It ain't enough minerals. It ain't enough things to back the money that's running around in the streets, man. If every individual, I ain't just talking about, you just think about all the illegal money that's out here buried in motherfucking yards and in sheds and in storage buildings, millions and millions and millions of dollars, 40, 50 million, 80 million, 2, 3, you might be $500 million in legal money out here, you know, and we don't got that much money in the motherfucking, in Fort Knox or the reserve. You can Google that, man. You can look it up. And then you got Jeff Bezos billionaires and Elon Musk billionaires, Jay-Z billionaires, Oprah Winfrey billionaires, and you got so many millionaires. You got a millionaire be formed every day. If someone becomes a millionaire every day, you know. But if I'm a millionaire, I want all my money in gold. I'm taking all my motherfucking cash that I make and I'm going to buy something that can never, ever, ever, ever be disputed. And that's gold, man. You know, it's like when the United States and other countries, when they first formed, them folks traded on what they had. You know, a motherfucker didn't go trading on ass. Because when you trading with dollar bills and cash, it's really trading on ass, like credit cards. You know what I mean? That shit ain't real. You know, go back to like the Western days where a motherfucker had to come up in there with gold nuggets to buy some land or buy some food and, you know, shit like that. You know, a lot of people sit back and if the world was to experience what you call a cyber attack, where them folks attack all the banks, all the, you know, financial stability, like the world, like the stock exchange effect. People don't understand when you watch the stock exchange, you can see how the world gonna be flowing. Like when COVID-19 hit, you seen the stock it go boom, that shit at the bottom of the flow. You seen every stock hit the bottom of the flow, but then you seen other stocks start to rise, and a lot of people became millionaires off that shit, man. Politicians. Man, them politicians that was able to hold back the truth about COVID-19 for months was already building their motherfucking wealth by buying into all the things that they knew that COVID-19 was going to bring. All medical supplies, any kind of equipment, they're dealing with medical health. Them folks put their money into, man. All them senators, all them governors, all them presidents. Man, them folks went and told their cousins, told their nieces, told their aunties, go put this $20 million, go put this $100,000, go put this $50,000 and buy all this stock right here before we have to go out there to the American people and disclose that we knew that this shit was killing people and we were still telling people it was the flu. Even though we say we got the most best doctors, best scientists, America always highlight we have the best. But we always second when it comes to health, man. How do we got all the best motherfuckers, but most of the best motherfuckers that you see in hospitals that be surgeons and doctors, them folk be from other countries. Them folk be from other countries. Them folk wasn't born in America, and some of them ain't planning on staying in America. Some of them folk came over here to get their education and become surgeons and doctors and go back to their country where they from and do good work with people in their villages and cities. They come over to make enough money to where they don't have to go back to their country and have to worry about money, and they can go over and do what you call, you know, humanity. They can go over and start working on children with clipped lips and helping people diagnose people with diseases and get the medication they need. Man, it's a lot of people out here, man, that sometimes I think that they don't even realize how blessed they really are to be in the situation they in, because there's a lot of people out here that's in a lot of worse situations, man. Man, there's people out here that ain't ate in days. In days. There's people out here that literally on lost their mind and can't find out what happened, man. That's why I tell people, man, every day is a blessing, because you never know what could happen to you to change your life. It's people that get up one day and be having a ball, doing what they do, and next thing they have a stroke and can't do shit. It's people that get up and go to a club and having a ball, and somebody slips something in their drink, and next thing you know, they in there can't even, wipe their own ass no more because somebody gave them something in a drink that fucked their mind up. You got to have a strong mind to be able to understand that the world is an evil place, and you have to protect yourself every day. You have to protect your energy by not letting negative people in. You got to protect your surroundings so no one can't never come in and break down your whole whatever you built in life. I see so many people that be willing to tap out in life because of the thing that's going on in their life, and most of the thing that's going on in their life they can control. As a human being, we all have the ability to control the people that we surround ourselves with, the people that we sleep with, the people that we associate ourselves with. Some people act like that you chained at the hip literally with a person, man. I don't care who I stand in front of. I stand in front of God, or I in front of a judge and tell a judge I'm gonna love a woman forever. That don't mean that that's gonna happen. That don't mean that's gonna happen, because sometimes people outgrow relationships and mature faster than other people, and go on different paths to become better people than they ever thought they could become. I don't sit back and dwell on nothing about the past, because the past is the past, and my future is so bright that I need sunglasses to see that motherfucker, man. I don't sit back and I don't never ever worry about nothing in life and never think about failing at anything in life. True enough, some days be harder than others, but every day that you get up is a struggle, and every day that you go to sleep and wake up without a scrape or a bruise or in handcuffs or in jail, you won, man. You won. Because there's so many people that's sitting back in the penitentiary right now, and I'm speaking from experience, man. There's so many people sitting back in a rec yard or in a small yard right now, playing basketball, wishing they was out here in the streets doing anything but playing basketball in the penitentiary, man. There's a lot of folk that don't understand that when you get incarcerated, you don't get that time back out of life, man. You miss so many things, so many opportunities that you could have had in life. That's when I be seeing people holler out, man, would you go to prison for 5 years for $10 million? I ain't going to prison for no amount of money. No amount of money, man. Don't you realize that there's no limit to the money that you could make out here in this world every day that you out here in this world? Man, you can't make no real motherfucking money in the penitentiary. And trust me, I sold dope in the penitentiary, man. True enough, you can make some money, but you can't go buy no car in the penitentiary. You can't do nothing in the penitentiary with no money. Nothing. Live what? Live a little better than the next motherfucker in the penitentiary. Have a cell phone. Be able to get a little freeware food every day. Shit, you can do that if you stay free. And more. And more, man. You know, you see so many people out in this world, they glorify the most dumbest things in the world, man. Glorify. Glorify. Ain't no way I'm gonna glorify the street. What's up, John?
It's too fucking. It's getting hot. I was just checking to see how hot it got already.
Yeah, it's getting hot out here. But it
They
ain't
said
always.
thunderstorms possible.
Yeah. It's
So I was
always.
putting the boat in the water. I was thinking about that. But it's so clear out. I don't get it.
It really ain't that hot, man. It might not. You know how the weather will say one thing, but then it do another.
Oh, we're dropping trash.
What trash? Ain't number one bag back there.
Oh yeah.
Seems like it. And you can put that. You can put them bags in that trash can right there.
Oh, they still picking up their trash over there?
Yeah, they gonna pick it up till they pick the trash can up.